Are they really with you? Or are their eyes glazed over, screens at half-mast, and minds a million miles away? We've all been there, right? We've seen the dreaded student zone out. You've poured hours, maybe even days, into your lessons, but sometimes it feels like you're just talking to an empty room. What if I told you a recent report mentioned that 46% of teachers feel student engagement has actually dropped since 2019? That's nearly half of our classrooms potentially missing out on crucial learning. And here's a tougher pill to swallow: boredom isn't just about a quiet classroom, it seriously messes with the student's ability to focus and remember things, which can lead to lower grades and, believe it or not, even higher dropout rates. But what if the fix isn't about louder bells or flashy tech? What if it's about connecting with something way more powerful, their own motivation, their personal goals, and that natural human itch to know why something actually matters? In this video, we're not just talking about jazzing up your Tuesday lecture. We're going to explore how to craft educational content that genuinely pulls your students in. We'll look at real strategies to make learning not just bearable, but personally compelling, by linking it to what they want for themselves, and creating a space where they feel supported and ready to jump in. Forget the quick fixes, we're aiming for a real shift in how students connect with what you teach. So, if you're ready to turn that disinterest into discovery, stick around. Think about it. When a student is bored, it's often a sign they're looking for something meaningful, something with purpose, something useful. It's not them being defiant, it's a quiet call for relevance. When students can't see how what they're learning in class connects to their own lives and goals, their interest just fades. This isn't just a K-12 thing, it's how humans learn, period. The good news: we can absolutely build that bridge. Understanding your students' why, the power of personal goals. Alright, the first big step, maybe the most important one, to creating content that sticks is to get a handle on what makes your students tick. What are their personal goals, their interests, their dreams? You don't need to be a mind reader, just a better listener and observer. Students are so much more motivated when what they're learning lines up with their personal interests and what they're aiming for. Why is this such a big deal? Because when students see a clear path from what they're learning to what they want to achieve, the content stops being a chore and starts being a tool. It suddenly has purpose. Study after study shows that when students find subject matter personally relevant, assignments feel more meaningful, which kicks both motivation and engagement up a notch. So, how do you uncover these individual whys? Start by making space for students to share what they're into. This could be through casual chats, quick interest surveys at the start of a course, or even by letting them choose topics for projects. Encourage them to tell you what they hope to get from your subject, not just good grades, but skills or knowledge that genuinely excites them or that they think will be valuable down the road. Think about weaving in some goal-setting exercises. That SMART goals framework, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound, isn't just for the business world, it's a fantastic tool for students too. Helping them define I want to bump my math grade from a C to a B by the end of the semester by doing 5 practice tests is way more powerful than a vague I want to do better in math. When they write these goals down and chop them into smaller, doable steps, they gain focus and a clear path. Remember, this isn't about bending to every single win, but about finding those genuine connections. If a student dreams of designing video games, how can understanding physics or how stories are built help them? If another wants to start their own business, how do communication skills or analyzing data fit in? Making these links crystal clear is key. When you connect academic standards with the skills students will actually need, they become real partners in their own learning. This whole process of figuring out and acknowledging personal goals does more than just shape your content, it starts building a supportive learning environment, which, by the way, is our next crucial piece of the puzzle. Forging real-world bridges. Making content relevant. Once you've got a better feel for what drives your students, the next move is to actively and clearly connect your curriculum to the world outside the classroom. Students really need to see the value and relevance of what they're learning in the context of their own lives and future plans. This isn't just a nice little extra, it's essential for keeping them engaged long term. Honestly, one of the main reasons students get bored is because they just don't see how their schoolwork applies to anything real. So, how can we consistently build these bridges? First, make it a habit to point out real-world applications. Don't just assume students will magically see how quadratic equations are used in engineering, or how historical negotiation tactics could be useful in a business deal today. Clearly connect what you're teaching to future careers and everyday scenarios. Share concrete examples of how the knowledge and skills are used by pros in different fields. Maybe invite guest speakers, use case studies from current events, or assign projects where students have to apply concepts to solve real problems. Second, give them solid reasons for learning activities. Instead of just saying read chapter 5, explain why chapter 5 is important. What key ideas will it offer? How does it build on what they already know or get them ready for what's next? What problem does it help them understand or solve? This helps them see the purpose behind the work. Third, try to build your content around the big ideas and core principles of a topic, rather than getting bogged down in tiny details right away. Once students get the main concepts and why they matter, they'll be more motivated to dig into the specifics. Think about structuring lessons around essential questions that spark curiosity and connect to bigger themes. A really powerful technique is to constantly ask yourself, and even your students, so what? Why does this concept matter to them? If you're teaching Shakespeare, the so what might be about timeless human emotions, power struggles, or the art of persuasion, all still super relevant. If it's the periodic table, the so what could be about understanding the materials that make up their world, from their smartphones to their own bodies. Think about shifting some assignments to be more project-based, letting students explore topics through the lens of their own interests. For instance, a history project could turn into an investigation into the history of a field they're passionate about, or a science project could focus on the science behind a hobby they love. This lets them see how skills and knowledge apply directly in a context they find engaging. Giving students a say in how they learn, like choosing project topics, makes them much more likely to stay interested. Finally, keep an eye on what's new and trending. How is your subject area changing? What are the latest challenges and opportunities? Bringing these into the classroom shows that your subject is alive and kicking, not just a dusty collection of facts from a textbook. It's worth noting that over 2/3 of students feel their education isn't really keeping up with what the workplace needs, so focusing on future readiness is a big deal. By consistently building these real-world bridges, you turn abstract concepts into useful tools, and you can transform disengaged learners into active participants who really see the value in what you're teaching. Cultivating a yes, you can classroom, the supportive atmosphere. Students are just much more likely to engage, take chances, and stick with it when things get tough if they feel like they're in a supportive learning environment. This isn't just about being nice, it's about intentionally creating an atmosphere of trust, respect, and encouragement where students feel safe to explore, mess up, and grow. Building a good relationship with your students and giving them timely feedback are huge parts of this. So, what does this actually look like in your classroom? First off, make building positive relationships a priority. Get to know your students as people. Learn their names, listen to what they have to say, and show you're genuinely interested in how they're doing. When students feel seen and valued, they're way more likely to invest themselves in learning. Even simple things, like a welcoming digital space or kicking off a term with an enthusiastic video introducing yourself and your teaching style, can set a really positive tone. Second, have clear expectations and a predictable structure. Students do so much better when they know what's expected of them and how they'll be graded. This clarity cuts down on anxiety and lets them focus their energy on learning. Start each lesson or module by clearly stating the learning goals, what they'll learn and why it's important. Third, build a culture where questions are always welcome and mistakes are seen as chances to learn. Lots of students, especially online, might hesitate to speak up. Encourage them to share their ideas in low-pressure ways, like quick polls, using the chat, or having small group discussions before sharing with the whole class. Stress that learning is all about trial and error, and that hitting roadblocks is normal. Focus on improvement, not just on comparing them to others. Fourth, give regular, constructive feedback. Timely and specific feedback helps students understand where they are, where they need to go, and how to get there. It's not just about pointing out what's wrong, it's about guiding them toward getting it right. Think about using different feedback methods. Written comments, audio notes, or quick one-on-one check-ins can all work really well. Personalized feedback shows you care about their individual progress and helps build that trust. Fifth, show them you believe in their abilities. Your expectations can have a massive impact on how they perform. Use encouraging words and acknowledge their effort and progress, no matter how small. Help them see that skills develop through practice and sticking with it, not just from some innate talent. When students feel their teacher believes in them, it can be a huge boost to their confidence and motivation. Feeling supported by a teacher can really help students bounce back from challenges. 6. Always be mindful of inclusivity. Make sure your content and teaching methods are accessible and work for diverse learning needs and backgrounds. This might mean offering different ways for students to engage with the material, like videos, readings, interactive activities, or allowing for flexible assignment formats. The aim is to create an environment where every single student feels like they belong and has an equal shot at success. A supportive atmosphere doesn't mean you lower your standards. It means you provide the support, encouragement, and safe space students need to reach those standards. It's about creating a mini culture in your classroom, where engagement is the norm, because students feel respected, supported, and empowered. Transforming content from passive to active, interactive engagement. Let's be honest, passively soaking up information is a fast track to boredom. To really hook students, we need to turn them from watchers into doers. Active learning, where students get involved with the material by doing, discussing, and creating, leads to more participation, deeper understanding, and better retention. In fact, studies show there's way more student talk time and high rates of nonverbal engagement when learning is active compared to passive. So, how can we weave interactive elements into our educational content? One great strategy is to include chances for self-assessment and reflection. This could be short, ungraded quizzes at the end of a module, minute papers where students jot down key takeaways, or guided reflection questions that get them thinking about how they can use what they've learned. These activities not only reinforce learning, but also give students a sense of making progress. Another powerful way is to create challenges or problems for students to solve. This could be anything from simple what-if scenarios to more complex, project-based tasks. When students are actively wrestling with problems, they're forced to think critically and use their knowledge in new ways. Gamification elements, when they're tied to clear learning goals, can also be really effective by making learning more fun and encouraging a bit of friendly competition or teamwork. Think about game mechanics like points, badges, or leaderboards that match up with your learning objectives. Encourage active note-taking and participation during lectures or video presentations. Instead of just throwing information at them, ask questions, get them to make predictions, or have them discuss concepts in pairs or small groups, even in breakout rooms if you're online. Tools like polls, chat, and collaborative whiteboards can make this interaction happen, especially in virtual setups. Design hands-on activities whenever you can. This is a no-brainer in subjects like science, but even in more theoretical areas, there are ways for students to do something with the content. This might mean debates, role-playing, creating presentations, building models, or even teaching a concept to their peers. Collaborative projects, where students team up on a shared task, also boost active engagement and help develop crucial interpersonal skills. Break up longer chunks of content into more manageable segments. Generally, keeping focused attention is easier with sections of around 20 to 30 minutes. Within these segments, switch up your presentation methods. Move between direct instruction, discussion, individual work, and group activities to keep things feeling fresh. Finally, use technology to make things more interactive. There are tons of tools out there, from interactive simulations and virtual labs to collaborative platforms and educational apps. The trick is to pick tools that actually support your learning objectives and aren't just tech for the sake of tech. Multimedia learning materials like videos, podcasts, and interactive simulations can break the monotony of just reading text and make complex ideas easier to grasp. By making interaction a core part of how you design your content, you shift the dynamic from a one-way street to a two-way conversation, leading to deeper thinking and making the whole learning experience way more compelling. The art of engaging presentation. Your delivery matters. You could have the most relevant, perfectly structured, and super interactive content in the world, but if your delivery is flat, student engagement will be too. How you present your material makes a huge difference in student motivation and their willingness to connect with what you're teaching. So, what are the key ingredients for an engaging presentation style? First and foremost, show genuine enthusiasm for your subject. Passion is catchy. If you're excited about what you're teaching, your students are much more likely to catch that bug too. Let your personality come through. Don't be afraid to share your own interest and curiosity about the topic. Vary your voice. A monotone voice is a guaranteed snooze fest. Change your tone, pitch, pace, and volume. Use pauses well to highlight key points or to give students a moment to digest information. Think of your voice like an instrument. Use its full range to keep listeners tuned in. Maintain eye contact and use expressive body language. Even if you're teaching online, looking into the camera helps build that connection. Use gestures naturally to help explain your points and show energy. Your physical presence, even on a screen, adds to the overall engagement. Break your content into easy-to-digest pieces and use clear, straightforward language. Try to avoid jargon if you can, or explain it clearly if you have to use it. Structure your presentations logically with a clear intro that grabs their interest, a main body that delivers information in sensible chunks, regular summaries of key points, and a conclusion that reinforces the main takeaways. Make your content visually appealing. Whether it's slides, videos, or handouts, think about the design. Use color, graphics, and clear organization to make information easier to take in and more engaging. Steer clear of cluttered slides packed with way too much text. Instead, use visuals to support your points and keep text brief. Weave in storytelling and appropriate humor. Stories can make abstract concepts more relatable and much more memorable. Well-placed, relevant humor can lighten the mood and keep students attentive. Of course, this needs to fit your audience and the subject matter, but don't underestimate the power of a good anecdote or a light-hearted moment. And finally, be prepared, but also be flexible. While having a plan is super important, sometimes the most engaging moments pop up on spontaneous discussions or unexpected student questions. Be willing to go off script when a chance for deeper engagement comes along. Teachers who seem disengaged or bored themselves are likely to have disengaged students. On the flip side, your active engagement and responsiveness can seriously lift the energy in the classroom. Your delivery is how your carefully crafted content reaches your students. By working on these presentation skills, you make sure your message isn't just heard, but actually felt and understood, maximizing its impact and keeping your students hooked from start to finish. So, let's quickly run through the main strategies we've talked about to stop boring your students and start really hooking them. First, we looked at understanding your students' why by uncovering their personal goals and interests, making learning naturally motivating. Second, we discussed forging real-world bridges, clearly connecting what you teach to real-life situations and future dreams to show its relevance. Third, we highlighted cultivating a yes, you can classroom, building a supportive, trusting, and respectful learning space where students feel safe to jump in. Fourth, we explored transforming content from passive to active by adding interactive elements, problem solving, and hands-on activities. And fifth, we focused on the art of engaging presentation, zeroing in on enthusiastic delivery, vocal variety, and visually appealing materials. Creating educational content that truly grabs students isn't about finding one magic trick. It's about a thoughtful, big-picture approach that values student choice, relevance, support, interaction, and a dynamic delivery. It's about moving beyond just passing on information to sparking genuine discovery and connection. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these strategies really clicked with you? What are some techniques you found work well in your own teaching to keep students engaged? Share your thoughts and ideas in the comments below. Let's all learn from each other. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more content on effective teaching and learning, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. Try putting just one or two of these ideas into practice this week and see what a difference it makes. Changing your educational content from potentially yawn-inducing to undeniably hooking is an ongoing process, not a final stop. It takes empathy, creativity, and a real willingness to see learning through your students' eyes. Remember, when students get the why behind their learning, when they see how it connects to their lives, and when they feel supported and actively involved, their motivation and engagement will skyrocket. You have the power to not just teach your subject, but to ignite a genuine curiosity and a lasting passion for learning. Thanks for watching, and here's to creating classrooms full of hooked, not bored, students.